You are helping normalize the idea that we could have, it didn't matter that we abandoned Palestinians. It doesn't matter that we're going to abandon trans people. That's not why we lost. We're free to abandon those people. They don't have the weight. They don't have the electoral weight. First of all, completely amoral, completely disgusting. It shows you, like, who taught you politics? Who taught you that politics is about leaving aside the people who are in the right and being oppressed because it's electorally convenient? Who told you that? Close to 4 years, let's go. A better world is possible. Hell yeah, brother. Schumer allowing 4 Trump circuit appointments because he was EP. This is actually, yeah, by the way, this is for Sam Cedars of the world. Senate Democrats allow President-elect Trump to fill 4 pending appeals court nominations. Why? Like, why? What is this? What is this? This shows you just how bad, like, voting for Kamala Harris would have been. Because this is the type of people that would have been permanently embedded in the Democratic Party. And the reality is they're still there. This is not good. Like, the immediate reaction to me saying that by somebody like Sam Cedar would be to like, oh, but look, see, if Kamala had won, we would have been able to appoint these 4 pending appeals court nominations. Actually, no, because Dick Durbin had revived the blue slip, Sam Cedar. So any Republican senator could permanently veto any appeals court or district court judge within their state, and they did. And so the Democrats were only successfully appointing people inside of blue states. Like, that is the reality of the fucking disaster that is the centrist Democrat. So if you care about the court, you should see this and go, wow, this is bad. But then you should also realize in the long run, this is a good thing, because those of us who actually believe in progress, in order to achieve that progress, we're going to have to go and take over the judicial system and reform it whole hog. And whether the Republicans have 4, more circuit court nominees or not doesn't matter. We will design the reform to be advantageous to us when we have the power. If that is too scary to you, then you're not talking about politics in a realistic fashion at this point. The Republicans have played constitutional hardball. They have used every single thing they can do. Donald Trump came out and said, hey, let me appoint my entire cabinet with recess appointments. Is that a conformity to norms? No, it's not. He doesn't give a shit about norms. Why do you care about something, a norm? By the way, it's not even a norm. If the Republicans are ignoring it, it's not a norm. It's a self-imposed restriction. And nobody cares about your self-imposed restrictions. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. It's like going, I'm a vegan, and then walking around when people are eating hot dogs at the fucking baseball game and be like, I can't believe you're breaking my veganism. And it's like, bitch, I didn't say I was a vegan. Eating a hot dog is legal. Vegan is your self-imposed restriction. If you don't want to have a hot dog, you don't have to have a hot dog. And then the Democratic Party is, I don't want to have a hot dog. I can't believe they're eating a hot dog for ad infinitum. The judges in question didn't have enough Democratic senators. I believe, what was a Pakistani American Muslim? Looks like Islamophobia. Yeah, exactly, because the Democratic Party does not call those people out. Joe Biden doesn't call those people out. The people are not informed of who the centrist Democrats are that sabotage progressive or even moderate change. Like, the Democratic Party doesn't operate in that way. It's actually really pathetic how that functions. Well, let's hop into enjoying the fact that the United States of America under Joe Biden is a war criminal country.
But in terms of our support for Israel, we're continuing to support Israel with the assistance it needs in its, fight against Hamas and Lebanese Hezbollah. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we can't continue to make clear our concerns on the conduct and how they are conducting those operations, whether it be in Gaza or on the northern border.
So you're rejecting the decision based on, I guess, technicalities and jurisdiction.
It's really
what do you
weird.
think of that allegation?
I don't know why.
Committing war crimes and crimes against humanity.
Again, we don't see eye to eye on where the ICC is. And as I've said, we reject the court's decision to issue these arrest warrants. So I think that pretty much implies that we don't agree with that decision.
Okay, so what is the legal opinion you're basing your rejection on? Did the department issue any legal opinion on what's been happening in Gaza? Did you study any incidents that are mentioned in the ICC decision?
I'm not aware of a formal legal opinion being issued by this department. I think you've asked me that before. Some of the things that,
So how can you reject it? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, like, if you're going to say that the ICC thing is completely without merit, that's a legal opinion that you have formed. I don't get it. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me. Like, I would be very concerned to go up there and put my face in front of all these reporters and history and reject evidence without ever actually looking at the evidence. It seems like a little bit, I don't know, dangerously wrong and complicit with a genocide? I don't know. And war crimes?
So if you don't have any legal assessment, how can you reject what's been presented by a legal body, one of the highest, it's an international law court? How can you reject it if you don't have a counter legal assessment? Is it a political rejection? And if you don't have a legal assessment?
Yeah, again, Fadi, I'm just not going to have more for you to provide other than what I said, is that we reject the court's decision. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to go through a legal process. We can reject decisions from the court that come down in various forms.
I don't need to be a lawyer. So it's so funny when they're asked about various decisions that are made, they're like, oh, I'm not a lawyer. And then when a new indictment comes out, they're like, oh, we totally reject that. We reject it, folks. We are against it. We don't want to have the legal system review the evidence. That's no go. And it's pointing out hypocrisy at this point, does it even do anything?
Forms.
I got an arrest warrant for murder, but I reject the decision, so I'm safe, right? I mean, I guess if you could fight off all the enforcers of the law, then you are. Which is basically just might makes right. And that's kind of what the United States is saying right now. The United States is saying, might makes right. If you don't like it, then prove me wrong. I want The Hague to call the U.S. bluff. Of course they are going to call the bluff. But the problem is, it's not, okay, let's be honest. It's not that Benjamin Netanyahu, like Putin, is going to end up in The Hague. But from now on, we can say Benjamin Netanyahu is an indicted war criminal who is fleeing justice. Benjamin Netanyahu is hiding from the international court. That is what the United States of America is doing. The United States of America is supporting Benjamin Netanyahu's crimes. That's incredible. No more pretending we're the good guys. That's exactly right. It's official. Trump's sentencing in New York is canceled indefinitely. Court received separate submission from the defendant, the district attorney, seeking various forms of relief in connection with the above captioned matter. The defendant's respective applications are decided as follows. The defendant's request for leave to file a motion to dismiss pursuant to criminal procedure law is granted. It is further ordered that the joint request for a motion schedule is granted. Defendant's motion is due by close of business Monday. Court will not accept reply briefs. It is further ordered that the application to stay the decision's motion is granted pending receipt of the papers from all parties submitted in accordance with the motion schedule noted above. It is further ordered that the joint application for a stay of sentencing is granted to the extent that the November 26, 2024 date is adjourned. And there you have it. Exactly what I told you would happen. Exactly what I told Hutch would happen. The legal system is a political system. The President of the United States will not go to prison because of a state-level charge. That is a constitutional crisis. In many other countries, like Israel, for example, where Benjamin Netanyahu is facing corruption charges, the head of state is immune from prosecution to prevent that kind of constitutional or legitimacy crisis. If the people decide to elect a criminal, then that criminal will remain sovereign. And the recourse is to convince a majority of people to get rid of that motherfucker. Even if ICC member countries refuse to arrest Bibi, they will be removed from the ICC. That may not affect them directly, but it will allow Russia to extend their influence over those countries, as they will also no longer be required to respect warrants on Putin. That's also true. And I specifically said this to Hutch. And I told him, Hutch, Donald Trump will not go to prison before the election. Now, after the election, Donald Trump could have gone to prison. If Donald Trump had lost, they would have sentenced him and he would have went to prison. Literally. This was, the Republican Party was holding this bat. And they knew that if Donald Trump lost the election, he was going to claim fraud. And what they were going to do is just let him go to prison. They might have even complained like, oh my God, look at the Democrats. They're arresting their opposition. Tyranny, tyranny, tyranny. Knowing that it was all legitimate and using it as a cudgel, using it as a way to fire up their base after a defeat, right? A defeat that many of the Republican base would have denied the legitimacy of. Donald Trump would have been screaming from the top of his lungs about how he's being imprisoned after the election was rigged against him. All of that would have happened. But guess what? Now that he's won the election, none of this shit, Daddy Jack Smith, Legia Miller, all that shit is over. Because legal realism is correct. If you don't know what legal realism is, this is the way that I interpret law. Legal realism is a legal theory predicated on the notion that all law derives from prevailing social interests and public policy, as opposed to purely formalistic legal considerations. And Donald Trump's case objectively proves legal realism correct. Donald Trump was prosecuted according to the formalistic legal procedures. He was found guilty in a court of law by a jury of his peers. His sentencing date was set. But because he was the elected president, all those formal legalistic considerations go out the fucking window. Now it is social interest. It's public policy. It is the reality of the power of the Republican Party winning the election. It is the sense of the American people that it would be unfair to put the elected president in prison. That is what is keeping him out. Not because he's right, not because he didn't commit the crimes, not because he hasn't been duly convicted, but because of how society actually functions. Legal realism, in case you were wondering, is traditionally considered the left-wing way of interpreting law, recognizing that law exists to serve the social interests that are currently dominant within society. So in a bourgeois capitalist society, the legal system serves the interest of capitalists and the rich. In a workers' state, then the interest of the legal system would be to defend the revolution, defend the working class, defend the worker, defend that is. So if you want the legal system to be fair to workers, you need to have a society run by the workers. This is like the most basic fucking insight. I'm going to sound so smart when I plagiarize this to my family at Thanksgiving. Yeah, I know. If you talk to those libs about CRT, though they understand what you're saying well, but they drop the ball at legal realism because it shatters their entire worldview. Emma Vigeland is, I don't know how to say this. She's just delusional on who Kamala Harris is. There's really nothing that you can say other than that. Kamala Harris made it very clear that she and Biden were simpatico on Israel, meaning they were completely aligned. Kamala Harris had the opportunity to bring in uncommitted and give them a speaking slot on the DNC. Kamala Harris had months and months and months where she could have broken from Biden on Israeli policy and called for a conditioning of weapons. But Kamala Harris could come out right now and say that Netanyahu should conform to the ICC. She is a free woman. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. The election is over. Emma Vigeland is living in her own liberal mind palace. And it's very, very frustrating to see because these are people that we need to be sane if we're going to try to take this Democratic Party in a progressive direction. We need better. I wonder what Kamala Harris will do now. The same thing that any failed Democrat politician does. Find some sort of like entertainment job, make a movie or book, and shill it on liberal networks to make a few million. And then hang out with billionaires, hang out with celebrities, and just enjoy being rich. Like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Al Gore. I mean, it's the same. They do the same shit. Like, who gives a fuck? She's a loser. Like, it's legitimately misinformation, disinformation. I'm going to call it misinformation because I'm being nice. I think the proper analysis is that no president can resist the gravitational pull of weapons manufacturing and standards of global military dominance. Other liberal democracies, Canada, don't have the same pull. Sig, that's crazy. The MIC is a problem, but it's not some unassailable fact of nature or some sort of juggernaut. It is a system tied to a state. Opportunity to pressure Harris once elected. Why aren't you pressuring Biden?
Conclusions like, how could all of the swing
To be clear, I think that the MIC can be resisted, but that liberal ideology is capable of producing that resistance. Of course I agree. Okay, we're on the same page.
states voted in Democratic governors, senators, and President Trump? Where are all of the, votes if there was record voter turnout that didn't end up turning into votes? I gotta hope and know and pray that Kamala's people are also doing those things. There has to be something going on. Everyone is far too quiet. Everyone is far too quiet. Like everyone, both sides, too quiet. We have to keep being loud. Go comment on politicians, videos, Instagram, whatever. Like say, hey, are we doing a recount, bestie? Like I need to know.
She lost. She lost badly. I need you guys to understand something about recounts. Recounts do not move the numbers by much. The most that recounts have ever moved on a statewide election, I think, is a couple thousand votes. That's by far the most. Okay? And that was the outlier most. Typically, they move them by a couple hundred votes. All right? Kamala Harris lost bigly. Does that mean that it was like a landslide for Trump? It was not a landslide for Trump. He won all the close states. So it looks worse than it is. But was it recountable? Absolutely fucking not. I mean, Kamala Harris lost a hell of a lot more than Hillary Clinton did. And Hillary Clinton's recount didn't move the numbers like at all. Anybody talking about recounts is in delusion land. Unless you're talking about an election that is within a couple thousand votes, shut the fuck up. Like, legitimately shut the fuck up.
I need to know that y'all are working on this and that you really didn't just give up.
They gave up because they lost. They lost the election. It's Jover. How are 10,000 people liking this babble? Are you babies? Are you infants? These people are worse than sports fans. These people are legitimately worse than sports fans. These are Dallas Stars fans talking about the skate. It's called Coat, Mikey Mike. You should try it sometime. Why? Why do you need this? Are you gonna cry? Legitimately. Grow up. What is this?
Please, I need to know.
Are we gonna have a recount, bestie? At Bernie Sanders? Please, bestie. It does make me really sad that your average face-tuned wine mom on TikTok is more passionate about the electoral loss than Kamala Harris was. Her concession speech was pretty much nothing, and I don't know, no one's seen her since. I guess she just went home.
Let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars.
Maybe get a billion votes first. I'm sorry. So obviously a lot of these conspiracy TikToks are from right after the election, and most of these people just haven't really posted since then. But when the campaign is already so vibes-based, the reaction to the loss is also gonna be vibes-based. She's just hoping and praying that, I don't know, I guess stuff is different.
How could all of the swing states voted in Democratic governors, senators, and President Trump?
It's just crazy how we can't even approach the idea that this is a referendum on the current administration. It's done a bad job. It's done a bad job. We did not fall out of a coconut tree.
It looks like Kamala Harris will be requesting for a recount. And I'm not trying to get my hopes up because I already had them up and they were completely dashed.
They're just trying to scam you for extra money to pay their debt. They're scamming you for extra money to pay their debts. 300,000 likes. Why am I not more evil? Why am I not more evil? This is one of the things that I always, occasionally things happen and I'm like, why am I a good person? Why have I not set up 8 different scam packs and bought a bunch of email lists and crafted a whole bunch of bullshit and like paid myself $200,000 to be executive director of 8 different scam packs? I could be a multi-millionaire so easily by scamming these fucking blue anon libs. It would be so fucking easy. My God. Because you have ideals and a moral compass. I know. I mean, Jesus Christ, it would be so easy.
The Harris Victory Fund quietly updated their page, and that it now says a portion of the money donated to the fund will be allocated.
Oh my God! Arrest this woman! Arrest this woman for scamming! 300,000 likes! 300,000 likes! 300,000 likes! Arrest her! Donald Trump, FBI, arrest this woman.
To Harris for President recount account, signaling that Kamala Harris' team is gearing up to watch the count of votes in contested states closely.
There are no contested states. Every single state has been called in the presidential election. There is a decisive winner in every state. There is no state that is close. There are congressional districts that are still counting and that are close and that will have recounts. The Senate race in Pennsylvania is going to end up painfully close. Number of Green Party voters is going to be like 6 times more than the gap between Casey and that fucking McCormick. Like, yeah, that's where it's going to be painful. But the Democrats lost for doing a goddamn genocide. It is what it is. Casey conceded yesterday.
To happen because there's been too many things that have just not sit right in my soul. Donald Trump has been way too quiet. He has not been boasting and bragging like he will boast and brag about anything.
He's taking a vacation. He's taking a vacation. The election happened. He's been working around the clock, running around, campaigning all over the fucking country. He's taking a rest because he won the election. This is the most normal behavior. Like, this is what I talk about with these politics people. You have never been involved in a single campaign. You go on a break. You wind down the campaign. You take a break for the holidays. You know, you set up your transition team. You get things, flowing and working. You take some resumes for jobs, but you take a fucking break. This is the most normal thing that has ever happened in the history of anything. What the fuck are you talking about? You want him to do rallies where he says we won? Like, what are you talking about? Matt Gaetz says he won't be rejoining Congress. Okay, that's funny.
Because he won the actual election and he's not doing anything. That's suspicious.
Why is everyone...
What the fuck are you talking about? You stupid piece of shit. Somebody help my brain. I'm actually in pain. Holy shit. I think some neurons are trying not to they're committing seppuku dealing with these stupid fucking liberals.
Saying that Trump is being quiet. He gave a victory speech the night of the election. What? He hasn't been doing rallies, I guess. He won already, so he doesn't have to. And he's been out of the public eye for the most part because he's been appointing a cabal of rapists to ruin the government. This is looking too much into something that you don't understand and then filling in the gaps in your understanding with wishes and hopes. Like, I wish Trump stole the election. I wish I could, but that would be a much more interesting video to make right now. But now I have to spend this time pointing out that he didn't have to.
I'm a technologist. I know a lot about computers. And I'm like, the last thing I would do is trust a computer program. Because it's just too easy to hack. It's too easy to add just one line.
I'm a technologist. I know computers, and I wouldn't trust the computers. Isn't this the guy that wants computers to drive cars? Why would you say that? When did he trade in the P-MAGA hat for the dark gothic MAGA hat?
I'm dark gothic MAGA.
Piss MAGA, pee-pee MAGA, little pee-pee guy. Many of you probably don't know because you don't watch as many Trump rallies as I do. Not because I'm a fan or anything. But at one of the last, if not the last rally for Trump's 2024 bid, he called Elon the king of computers.
They have the beautiful computers. You know, you buy a computer. Oh, this is the greatest. 2 weeks later, it's obsolete. That goes on. I don't know how people do.
I have a computer I bought like 5 years ago, which is like totally capable of doing all this shit. Like, what are you talking about?
I thought I was crazy, but now I'm hearing one of our more influential people, members of Congress in AOC, giving out a very cryptic message saying that something big is coming and that it's taking them a minute.
She's talking about the consequences of a Republican quadfecta. The Republicans will be able to do whatever they want. There's nothing cryptic about it. It is trying to come up with strategies to resist the Republican public policies that are coming down the pike. Congratulations, I cracked the code for you. Also, anybody who plays this music on their short should be given residential intensive mental health treatment for a week.
And after the investigation by the Department of Defense, the Secret Service, and the IRS of Alfie Oaks, I'm actually starting to think, and don't quote me on this, this is just my feeling. I'm starting to think that the Democrats are going to file a formal challenge against the 2024 election.
Hey guys, so there definitely is some shit kind of going down that's getting very difficult to ignore. We're going to deal in facts though, and we're going to deal in proof, and we're going to deal in evidence. I want to share this letter from Stephen Spoonamore that was drafted and I believe being sent to Josh Shapiro's office for what he found in inconsistencies in his county, Center County in Pennsylvania. It appears that Mr. Spoonamore is a hacking investigator.
She's the Democrat My Pillow guy. She's the Democrat My Pillow guy.
Yeah, and I think
user 22058857397727's comment. They are moving in silence. Bitch, your username is longer than your comment. You're not allowed to use R in replace of R.
they're going to move in silence for a lot longer than we want them to. I actually find it comforting to know that they haven't said anything yet, to be honest.
All right, I'm starting a TikTok. This has convinced me. I could be TikTok famous. I'm convinced. You're right. I need to start a TikTok. That's it. Right before it gets banned.
Because that means they're not ready to prematurely discuss what they have found. When you have the possible evidence or path to the proof of something this sinister, you have to have all your ducks in a row. And I would rather them stay quiet and get all of their ducks in a row than prematurely say something.
The worst part is none of these dummies, i.e. liberals, aren't even looking at the correct place. If they want to talk about vote suppression, why haven't I heard anyone talk about Greg Palast dude's bid on vote purchases Florida 2000? Because they frequently... Okay, I want to say something, chat. A lot of votes don't get counted. A lot of votes get invalidated. A lot of people who have the right to vote and intend to vote don't get their actual intent recorded correctly. If this is the first time you're hearing this, you probably shouldn't have opinions on elections because this is basic shit that everyone knows who's ever done anything. Why is that? Well, because there's things that people trip over. Sometimes the ballot is confusing. Sometimes the ballot is long. Sometimes you don't fill out your mail-in ballot or absentee ballot correctly. Sometimes you vote in the wrong polling location, not the one that you're actually registered in. Sometimes your registration gets lost, damaged, or improperly input. All sorts of mistakes happen. Tons of votes in every precinct are thrown out. Why? Because those votes were not properly, and why that properly didn't happen, weren't properly submitted. And why that happens is a variety of reasons. But so why isn't that a big deal? Because it's random. Because the votes are disqualified before people know what's inside the ballot. We actually don't know who you voted for when you get rejected for, say, not having a date on your mail-in ballot. So it is prima facie content neutral, meaning they're not disqualifying votes because of who they voted for. Now, there's a problem with this. Republicans figured out a while ago that Democratic votes are slightly more likely to be thrown out than Republican votes for these kinds of errors. So if you block people from their ability to cure these problems, it's going to slightly disproportionately hurt Democrats more than Republicans. And the more roadblocks you put up, the more likely that people are going to trip over them, more likely that people's votes will be invalidated, and more likely that those votes will slightly hinder the Democratic candidate. Now, the solution to that is, hey, let's have an international voting system with the best voting experts in the world come together and form a process that is vetted, clear, and as simple as possible, that gives ample opportunities to cure errors, that gives people, voting receipts, gives people the opportunity to be notified if there is a problem with their ballot being counted, etc. Let's make sure that we do everything possible to make it as easy as possible for people to vote, as easy as possible for people to verify that their vote is counted, and as easy as possible for people to fix errors when they occur. No. That's socialism. The Democrats don't support that. But as far as like the elections being rigged, no.
Okay, I think I'm convinced now. I was going over the exit polling and looking at the total number of voters that voted for Donald Trump compared to the total number of voters that voted for Kamala Harris. And I think that
there were millions more people who voted for Donald Trump. Okay, and?
To agree that there is something weird about this election. When you look at the total number of voters, right, the total number of voters that participated in this election, and you see that the majority of them decided that misogyny, racism.
It wasn't a majority, it was a plurality. He didn't get over 50%. I think one of the things, like, when people are making accusations of fraud and they can't use basic words correctly, you probably shouldn't listen.
Homophobia, transphobia, bigotry in general, being a bully, being a habitual liar, having no moral compass, being a convicted felon, having pending felony charges against them, causing an insurrection to try to overthrow the government because they lost a previous election. None of those were deal breakers for them when choosing a presidential candidate.
Correct.
That is what is really weird about this election.
Okay, this one is
okay. That's fine. That's fine. He's just balding that he lost. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. Because by the way, you're allowed to cry. Let the liberals cry. Let them whine and cry. They're allowed to do that. They're allowed to do that.
I don't believe that anybody is above the law. On the other hand, I also have a belief that we need to look forward as opposed to looking backwards. For example, at the CIA, you've got extraordinarily talented people who are working very hard to keep Americans safe. I don't want them to suddenly feel like they've got to spend all their time looking over their shoulders.
America.
Sure, they committed a bunch of war crimes and violated Americans' rights and the rights of human beings all over the world. But I don't want them to feel guilty about it. I think that shows you, man, they showed Obama something in the vaults he was very scared of, huh?
This morning, former Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Tom Homan, who carried out one of the
By the way, Tom Homan was an Obama guy. Like, that's the thing that's funny. He worked in the Obama administration.
Controversial border policy
today, fine.
During Donald Trump's first term is set to return to the White House. The president-elect announced Homan will serve as border czar, tapped to fulfill Trump's campaign promise of the largest mass deportation in American history.
There's a reason that this argument against Trump held no water in this election.
Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars.
Okay, we got a classic Gen X TikTok here. I knew that line felt coded. I just couldn't put my finger on it. Steven Spoonamore. What the fuck? Get him out of here, Steven Spoonamore. Spoon my ass. Looking for coded messages. She didn't mean Starlink. That's not, this is bad. Uh-oh. What's going on to your aunts on TikTok? That TikTok ban is still just waiting to be passed. The plan was always to pass it after the election, and I'm starting to think it might be a good idea.
By the way, the TikTok ban was January 19th. Right before the inauguration. I think Trump might not do it because he wants people to like him. So maybe, you know, maybe they won't actually do it because he doesn't care. Don't forget their stance about building the wall. Oh, yeah. They literally like, yeah, we'll fund Trump's wall, and we'll make all the Border Patrol officers judge, jury, and executioner. Literally. The Democrats were trying to give the Border Patrol agents the right to determine, without a trial, that someone was here illegally and then get them deported. Basically denying due process of law.
Again, there is literally no other faction to blame other than the Democratic Party establishment for so obviously fumbling their chance to prevent Trump from winning. They turned their back on trans people, on Palestine, and on you. There's no need to defend the Democrats just because they offered the only alternative to suffering, especially because it wasn't even an alternative. I really hope people learn how to hold their politicians accountable and look in the right.
They won't. They're not going to learn. They can only be led. Like, they're not going to learn shit. Like, if I sat back and waited for everybody to figure this shit out on their own, they're not going to figure out shit. It's our job to lead people to a better solution. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stop doing this mamby-pamby, well, lesser of two evils, and it's slightly better, and then, you know, if we do that for 80 years, then eventually someone might win. That's not going to happen, okay? We need to actually be bold and uncompromising and have a vision and be okay with losing. That's number one. If you're not okay with the possibility of defeat, then you're not even playing politics for real. Because Kamala Harris played the safest possible campaign she could come up with, and she lost anyway. So if you think being bold, if you think being unafraid of losing is what's going to make you lose, well, being extremely afraid of losing is what Kamala Harris's campaign was, and she fucking lost anyway. So clearly, how scared you are of losing is not the way to win. It's about having a vision for change that people can believe in. The take that the DNC fumbled is correct. Imagining that Palestine or trans issues were the missing link is asinine. 90% of swing voters don't give a shit about that. They care about economy and perception. Okay, couple things. Number one, fuck you. You're stupid. Number one, fuck you, you're stupid. Like, off the bat, you're a dumbass. Just fuck you. Oh, but I'm a new viewer. Don't you want me to be? No, I don't give a shit. Leave. Fuck you. I don't care if you leave. Number one. So I'm never going to pander to you. Number one. I just want you to know that. If that's not good enough for you, fucking leave. Don't bother me. You're useless anyway. Okay. If you're tough enough to still be here, congratulations. Congratulations. Stage 2. That's not what I've ever said, you fucking idiot. Why do you come in here and do it a fucking straw man? Why do you come in here and do a straw man with your first post? You came in here and argued that I was saying something that I never said. Are you fucking stupid? You come in here and you say the take that Palestine and trans issues were the missing link is asinine. No leftist is saying that. You have just come in here constructing a straw man. Eden didn't say that. I didn't say that. No leftist said that. What leftist said was, personally for me, the genocide is something that I can't get over ever. And there are millions of people that are going to stay on the couch or be disillusioned because of this, which there objectively were. 6 million plus people didn't show up who voted in 2020. Okay. What we also said is the reason why Kamala Harris is losing is because she doesn't have a coherent, economically populist message that acknowledges people's pain and actually promises them change, which she objectively did not. It wasn't just one or two issues. It never is one or two issues. It's always about a panoply of issues. And the reason why you're saying Palestine or trans issues were the missing link is because you're trying to normalize. This is why I called you a fucking idiot. You are helping normalize the idea that we could have, it didn't matter that we abandoned Palestinians. It doesn't matter that we're going to abandon trans people. That's not why we lost. We're free to abandon those people. They don't have the weight. They don't have the electoral weight. First of all, completely amoral, completely disgusting. It shows you, like, who taught you politics? Who taught you that politics is about leaving aside the people who are in the right and being oppressed because it's electorally convenient? Who told you that? Who taught you that was okay? Who taught you to be like that? Who taught you to be a morally bankrupt worm? The reality is that on all of these issues, whether it's trans issues or Palestine or economics, the Democratic Party was cowardly and they cleaved to power. On Palestine, they wouldn't even let uncommitted voters speak. They would create even an impression that there might be pressure placed on Israel if Kamala Harris won. They gave us nothing on Palestine. So if you believe that there's a genocide or ethnic cleansing going on in Palestine, or that the war has gone too far, which the vast majority of Americans objectively do in the polls, you had no one to vote for. On trans issues, the Democrats ran away from talking about trans issues with any kind of respect, bodily autonomy, human rights, self-determination, or morality. They ran away from the issue and they hid. They threw trans people under the bus. Like, that is the problem that you have. And the reality is, you don't have to foreground trans issues as the most important issue. You need to foreground something that people can believe in and want to talk about and are interested in. Sometimes you can't do it. Sometimes the country is talking about some bullshit and your ability to change the conversation is limited. That can happen. But that wasn't even attempted by Democrats. They are replying to me. Why? What's the point? What's the fucking point? So that they could go like, no, I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying abandoning Palestinians and trans people. I was just arguing that caring about them is a waste. I was just arguing that Kamala Harris was actually right to do the cowardly shit she was doing. And in the future, they should actually be even more anti-trans. Cowardly. Yuck. Everyone in this chat hates your guts. You are fucking worthless. Take it personally. We hate you. We don't want you here. You don't matter. You are immaterial. And you're morally bankrupt. And this is why I want you to understand why you don't matter. Because your type of cowardice, your type of pathetic fucking loser mentality is never going to build a movement, never going to change the world, never going to make people's lives better. You're little petty, whiny, little like, well, I could throw this person who's desperately in need of help under the bus for my own gain. You will never gain from that. Because the type of people that do gain from that already have power. Do you think the United States would actually invade The Hague for Bibi? No. I also don't think he's going to be dumb enough to get himself arrested, but you never know. It might be funny. You called it logs from Hassan's chat? Of course Hassan has the Gucci AR. Can you just take a step back and see it from the other side where all this is the Jews' fault? Oh, wow. Did it turn out that he was a fucking anti-Palestinian? Oh, did I detect him immediately? Chat, if you saw me being mean there and you were like, wow, Mike, you're being mean, that's a potential recruit. I'm just better than you at detecting bad faith. I'm better than you at detecting worms. I'm better than you at detecting scumbags. Chat, make sure that you go, you like, you comment, and subscribe. Here's the thing about me. Like, if you want me to be nice to these people, fuck you. Like, I think one of the big issues, and if you're a new viewer, I'm sorry for being a huge asshole today, but you have to understand something. These people put us into the hands of the far right by downplaying the importance of a genocide, by downplaying the importance of equality for trans people, by downplaying the importance of economic issues, by pretending the economy is good, by pretending that Joe Biden was good on the economy or good on unions or good on these issues. And they have put us in the position where the Republicans have the ability to pass the policies they want to pass. And God knows just how bad it's going to get. The reality of what has happened has not sunk in yet. Day one of Donald Trump's presidency hasn't started yet. So yeah, I don't have any tolerance for these people.